Okay, let's get to Manchester United's injury list, because there is another name joining that long list of absentees, and that name is Noussair Mazraoui, who will be out for a few weeks after undergoing a minor heart procedure. He'd been experiencing palpitations, and it's said to be a relatively common condition according to the club's statement. It's expected he'll make a full recovery and be available for selection in the next few weeks. So that's one of the stories coming out of Manchester United today. The other is that of Erik ten Hag's future. Apparently there was a meeting with the execs, a meeting that was already planned.
Two meetings, one in Manchester and the big one in London.
The big one in London, over 7 hours, and nothing. Erik ten Hag on one of the topics on the agenda. However, no news, no information coming out about his role and whether he'll be continuing.
They're all sitting there. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing.
How does it take you 7 hours to figure this out?
It's only a matter of time.
Seriously.
It is only a matter of time. And all they're doing is, you know, fudging it down the road, because it's going to happen. Like there's been too many mediocre games, too many bad performances. It's not, may get a little better, but it's not going to get much better. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here weekend after this one, and he's in there again, and they have another bad result, and then we have the same conversation. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what the hold-up is. I'm not privy to that.
You have to think that either they don't know what the next move is, or the person they want, they can't get them right now, and they're just willing to wait. I mean, it has to be one of the two. They either don't know, or the guy they want, they can't get him right now.
But willing to wait is jeopardising any chance to get back amongst the top four, where the prize money, sponsorship, they're going to lose sponsorship money if they continue to be where they are. They're going to lose the Champions League money, and although they are a huge club that can generate money, they have, like most of the other clubs, they have this profit and sustainability issues that they have to deal with, and these all come into it. And as we currently speak, I'm not suggesting if they give the job to Ruud van Nistelrooy as an interim manager, they're going to get in the top four. But they've got to do something to give themselves a chance of getting up the table.
You need a spark. You can't sit in 14th and carry on the way you are. You need a spark. And it's easy to say that, but doing what they're doing right now, that spark isn't happening. It's just the same struggle after struggle after struggle. So you got to try something.
This is Manchester.
Because if they don't do anything, nothing's going to change, right?
This is Manchester United. He's just had the worst start they've ever had in the Premier League era, and it's broken his own record from the year before of the worst start.
Yep.
I mean, it can't continue. Well, it can. It can continue with him keep coming out and peddling the same stuff about, you know, it's a project and we're looking forward and youngsters and, you know, people keep telling me, wow, you had to go and get youngsters. Well, you had to go and get Matthias de Ligt. You had to go and get Casemiro. You had to go and get Agate. You had to go... Mazraoui's not a youngster. You know, Anthony's not a youngster. He's hopeless for the price he paid. I mean, he wouldn't be a bad player, Anthony, if you got him on a free and you could stick him on the bench and he comes on now and again. But not at 100 million or whatever it was. These are all under his watch.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, but I'm not surprised we have no news.
14th in the table, as you said, the worst start to a Premier League campaign, closer to the relegation zone, Don, than 4th right now. What have you made of this? You've been shaking your head when you heard about that meeting today.
I just think if I was a Man United fan, it makes Ineos look a little bit weak. You've had, you know, meetings after meeting after meeting. You've not made a decision. You could at least come out and tell the Man United fans what was on the agenda in those meetings. You could at least tell the Man United fans why you think you're not sacking Erik ten Hag. If you think he's the man, well, come out and say so. But I think it's the same conversation we're having all the time. And I'm starting to feel a little bit sorry for Erik ten Hag, because this guy's just like living week by week. He survived the Villa game because it was one of the worst games I've seen in a long time. I commentated on the game. It was just so boring. It was incredible. Off the back of the Spurs debacle the week before when they lost 3-0. And all of a sudden he goes into the Brentford game and you go, well, what's the scoreline going to be in the Brentford game to keep him in a job? because every manager's got a number K that gets you the sack. And if he plays Brentford and it's a 3 or a 4, we'll be having the same conversation again. Ineos will have to have that meeting again. Then he goes to play Fenerbahce away, which is Jose's team, and you can bet your bottom dollar he's going to have them fired up. So at what point does someone from Ineos at least tell the Man United fans what's actually going on rather than silence? Otherwise, we just have this conversation where we're going, yeah, there's a meeting, nothing's been done, nothing's been said. I will let him manage the Brentford game. Hopefully we'll get a win, and that keeps him in the job for another couple of weeks. If he loses, we're going to have another meeting again. But we might not sack him because we might just give him the Fenerbahce game. It's a shambles.
Ineos have shown themselves, and I've said this, thus far to be incapable of making better football decisions. They maybe be making better business decisions with training grounds and stadiums and commercial and whatnot. But the fan on the street, the fan watching the TV, the one paying, cares more about what they see on the field. And can you imagine Jurgen Klopp, Mikel Arteta, Pep Guardiola, Unai Emery? Can you imagine if their club were publicly known to be interviewing managers, as United did in the summer, behind their back? Can you imagine what they would do? They would walk out of those clubs, right? That's what Man United have been doing. They were interviewing other managers, De Zerbi and others, Pochettino and others, Thomas Tuchel, after he won the cup final, which, by the way, somehow saved him, according to Ineos. So, thus far, they have put a lot of money in. They've brought in a lot of technical people behind the scenes, but have shown themselves at the moment unable to make the big decision on this manager. And that's what the fans care about. That is what they care about.
And it's now been more than a decade since they've come close to winning the Premier League title. When you actually look at how close they have been, or haven't been, shall we say, over these recent seasons. There was obviously that year under Jose Mourinho in second, but it was 12 points behind the leader that year. When you think back, Stevie, and obviously you can talk about Liverpool's drop-off as well, and the fact that they went decades without winning a title, a league title. It would have been unfathomable to pretty much all of us, back in the 90s at least, that this could be what comes of Manchester United. And how do you see a way out of it, that they're not just going to become someone who goes 2 more decades without winning a title again?
Well, the way out of it, because, you know, the only difference between United and Liverpool is that in terms of finance, Manchester United are always going to be up there. You know, unless they just keep ending up in the conference every year. But that's the only difference. And when you fall away, it comes down to good owners and then good decisions from the people in charge of the football side of it. That's what Manchester United need. That's what Liverpool didn't have all those years, so they were struggling. And it didn't help that they didn't have the money that United had. So Manchester United have got the finances to do it. It doesn't look like they've got the owners to do it, because that decade you're talking about, it's the same owner. And Ineos, who wanted to run the football side of it, which in theory was a good idea, because the Glazers know how to make money, and so the less they do with the football side of it, the better. I think everybody agreed on that. But so far, Ineos have done nothing to show that they know what they're doing that's any better than the last regime that was in. You know, this so-called review, every week that goes by, every week that they produce nonsense on the field, makes that review, it makes them look worse. Because if you're going to review and you're going to decide that Ten Hag's the guy to take you forward and give him a contract, then clearly people are going to question whether you know what you're doing. And so it doesn't look like the Glazers are going to go. Certainly Ineos ain't going anywhere soon. So how did they get out of the slump? How did they win the Premier League? Because right now, there is absolutely not one single reason to think that it's going to change anytime soon.
Look, when Erik Ten Hag first comes in, he's like every manager. You're giving him a pass for a period, because you're just in and it's not your players, and so of course you're getting a pass. A bit like Postecoglou, not quite so much now, but certainly in the first year is getting a pass. Arne Slot will get a pass if things go a bit wrong, because they're just in. But not now. Not now. I mean, stupid decisions. You know, they absolutely pushed for Mason Mount. Ended up spending about 70 million. And we all sat here and said, they need, and by the way, it's just not happened for him, but he's not the only one, right? And I'm not saying he's a bad player, but they didn't need him at the time. They absolutely needed somebody who could score goals. They still don't have it. But they've spent millions on these players, and Anthony and Mount and these others. And now they've brought Højlund in. He's a youngster. He's raw. I don't think he's going to make the grade at that level, if I'm being honest. Then Zirkzee comes in because they're struggling for a bit of money and they need somebody. He ain't very good. Let's be honest about it. So they've pushed for all these players rather than going at the time a couple of years ago for quality. Real quality that's going to make a difference. They've sort of fudged every issue and spent money in areas that they didn't really need to do it. And he's been there. He might not have been wholly involved in it, but he must have been somewhat involved in it, Ten Hag. When they were pushing for Mount, he couldn't have been there going, no. He must have been saying, I like that player, and I like that player. And it was him that pushed for Anthony. It's him that pushed for a lot of these players. Martinez, would have been him that pushed for De Ligt. So he's, he cannot be given a pass now. 12 months into the job, yes. How did it go the first 12 months? Work in progress. Not now. We're well beyond that stage now. This is his team. They've spent a lot of money, and they have been awful. So we'll see what happens. Brentford beat them. I mean, come on. Brentford beat them, and by the way, they've had a good start to the season. They beat them. There is no way, surely no way he can survive it.
But if you look at the global brand that they are, as the guys were saying, Don, they're just too big when you think of how big they are across the world to be right here where they are now. Like, how are they going to find their way out of this?
Do you know what they've got to find, Kay? They've got to find a manager like Jurgen Klopp when he sat down at that press conference and he had charisma. And then that charisma, as Craig said, will get you a pass for the short period. And it's how he works behind the scenes and how he convinces. Because when you go back, I watched it again the other day, that first press conference that Jurgen Klopp delivered. And he told everyone, I'll turn it around. He went, I need time. He went, bear with me, I'll need time. From doubters to believers. And he was right, because he had the character and he could stand in front of a camera and he had charisma. And he told you, he's putting journalists in their place. When Ten Hag speaks, it's almost like you feel a little bit sorry for him, because it's just the same old words over and over again. And sometimes the journalists don't really push him too far. But I think what they need, and Craig mentioned quality, I'm sort of going a little bit the other way now when I'm talking player from a player's point of view, quality, and not the manager. And what they need now, and I thought of names, people like Matoma, and I thought people like Brian and Burmo at Brentford, guys that are hungry. Man United need guys that are hungry now, because they've got quality. Craig mentioned some of the players. The squad's not that bad, but for some reason the hunger's been sucked out of these players, and they're all looking very, very average, because it's very easy. Okay, basically what happens is, when you're struggling as a manager, you should at least have two things that you can hang your hat on. One is you're organised, so you organise the team. That's clearly, it's just not there. The other one is hard work. The players are not working hard enough for the manager, so he's got no chance, Erik ten Hag. So you need a manager that's going to come and demand hard work, make them organised, buy players that are hungry, who are going to run, and Man United fans can jump on board with and go, yeah, Matoma runs, and then Burma runs, and then one or two might just follow him. That's what they need. At the minute, it's just a ship that's going backwards and just not going anywhere, and it's just too big to turn around and stop, because who stops it? I have got no idea. That I mentioned to one of my pals the other day, I won't name him, and he said, when I mentioned the manager, he said to me, when I mentioned Thomas Frank to him, I think Thomas Frank might be the man, because he'll organise you. And he went, oh, that dressing room would eat him alive. And I went, well, that's your problem then. If the dressing room don't want to listen to someone like Thomas Frank, who would organise the team and have that connection between fans, players, and the staff, and get everyone unified, that's what Thomas Frank's sort of strength is. And he said, well, the dressing room would eat him alive. And I think, well, that's half the problem then. That might be your problem, if the dressing room don't want to listen to a new manager. So good luck turning that around.
Yeah, but that dressing room, the bulk of the players, a lot of them were brought in by the current manager. So whether they would listen to another one or not, they've been bringing them in. Let me go back to your analogy about Jurgen Klopp. Even when Klopp was rebuilding Liverpool, and it did take a bit of time till they were challenging and winning the Premier League, winning the Champions League. But even in the years, or whatever, the 18 months, 2 years as they were coming through, you could see what was happening. It wasn't perfect because he was putting the players in place. And there was some rocky results, but you could see what he was building in the identity of the way they played. A mirror image of him, getting the fans behind them. It was dynamic, it was pressing the ball, it was getting forward, like flooding forward with pace. You were like, wow, this is going to be exciting. There is nothing. There's no identity. There was an identity to Liverpool in the club. You could see it gathering as it rolled forward. You could see it coming.
Nobody, and they weren't always winning.
No.
But nobody remembers that. All they remember is that there's something going on here. And then while they're watching the team performing, they've got the right backroom staff who are bringing in better players all the time and taking one out and putting one in. And so you, in front of your eyes, you could see it building on the park. You could see the quality in the players getting better. Everything was going like that.
But what did he do, Stevie?
Pretty much after the get-go. And again, all of those things I've just said, there is not one single thing that I've just said about what he did that Ten Hag has done. Not one thing.
Look at the players that he brought in. Sadio Mane, guys that'll run. Gino Wijnaldum, guys that'll run. Fabinho, runners. He brought hard workers in. You're right, along the way, he lost the Champions League final. I think he lost, if my memory's right, 3 finals before he got to win the Premier League and Champions League.
That's the thing. That's what we're talking about, your recruitment being right. All of these guys went, yes, to put the icing on the cake, they spend 80 million on Virgil van Dijk, and they do the same way Alisson. Now, those were the 2 last pieces. But all the other pieces before, your Salah and your Mane and everybody else, they were all like 30 million, 35 million. Young players coming through, players that had some sort of reputation but weren't quite right at the top. That's a complete opposite of what United are doing.
And the big money signings delivered as well.
And the big money's, yeah. But there's only 2 of them. You've got
Firmino was another one.
Firmino, 28 million or something. But then you've got United with their recruitment spending hundreds of millions on the Anthony's. Sancho never kicked a ball. I mean, there's just such a long list that you named half of them earlier. Just everything.
But Klopp would have had a big say in those players that came into the club whilst he was there.
Aye.
It was his rebuild. And my point being, I was getting away from it a little bit. The point is Ten Hag would have a big say in a lot of these players. A lot of them. And so it's his baby. It's his baby now. He's holding it. And he's not doing a very good, he's doing a terrible job. And we just, it's Man United, we talk about it. I'll guarantee you, right, he'll not be managing that club at Christmas time. But that's a big mistake for Man United, because if they leave it that long, and their current guys, they're going to be so far down that league, it's going to be embarrassing.
Well, we'll see if anything does finally come out of this meeting, but so far it has just been signed.
Erik ten Hag's Man United future, dismissal decision made, Alonso and Xavi in talks, Emery in the wings. The pressure continues to mount for Manchester United's manager, Erik ten Hag, as speculation intensifies over his future at Old Trafford. The Dutchman has overseen United's worst start to a Premier League season in decades, leaving him vulnerable to dismissal. After 7 games, United finds itself languishing in 14th place, an even worse start than last season's dismal 8th place finish, the club's worst since 1990. With the October international break now upon us, a notorious time for managerial changes, many wonder if the club will use this period to make a bold move. The tension escalated following a 7-hour meeting in London on Tuesday, attended by co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe, his right-hand man Sir Dave Brailsford, directors Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox, and CEO Omar Barada. While United has remained silent about Ten Hag's future, the meeting has fueled speculation about a possible managerial change. Although there has been no official word, Ten Hag is expected to remain in charge for United's upcoming home match against Brentford on October 19th. However, rumours persist that Thomas Tuchel is being considered as a potential replacement. Reports suggest that Ten Hag doesn't have full backing from Ratcliffe, but both Ashworth and Barada reportedly support keeping him. Ratcliffe has reportedly requested a forensic analysis of all possible outcomes, signalling the gravity of the situation. He is determined to take a meticulous, evidence-based approach to any decisions regarding Ten Hag's future. Though Tuchel has been tipped as the likeliest replacement, no formal contact has been made. Meanwhile, Ten Hag has gone on a brief vacation but is rumoured to be cutting his time off short, much like he did over the summer when similar rumours about his departure were swirling. Looking ahead, Ten Hag faces a crucial stretch of matches, starting with Brentford. If results don't improve quickly, the club's leadership may be forced to act. Two potential successors have emerged in the form of Xabi Alonso and Xavi, both admired by United's board. Ratcliffe is reportedly keen on Xavi, having even expressed interest in Barcelona's Fermin Lopez. However, Alonso, currently at Bayer Leverkusen, is also on the radar as a long-term candidate, with some reports suggesting he could be approached next summer. Unai Emery's name has also been linked with the job, although these rumours appear to have been dismissed for now. Meanwhile, Ten Hag faces further challenges as United's defender Noussair Mazraoui is expected to be sidelined for several weeks following a minor medical procedure. Adding to the intrigue is the anticipated return of young defender Lena Euro, who has been recovering from a foot injury sustained in pre-season. Euro's comeback is expected in November, which could bring much-needed depth to United's defence. It's not just Ten Hag feeling the heat, player unrest has also become a theme, with echoes of Ruud van Nistelrooy's challenges at PSV. United's dressing room has reportedly been rife with discussions about Ten Hag's future, drawing parallels to Van Nistelrooy's own struggles with player revolts before his abrupt departure from the Dutch club. As the clock ticks down to United's next match, the tension at Old Trafford is palpable. Fans and pundits alike are waiting for clarity, but the club's silence only adds to the uncertainty. Will Ten Hag survive the storm, or is change on the horizon for Manchester United?